Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at all things 3D printed in Blood Bowl, whether it's star players, accessories, pitches, stadiums, or full-blown teams. If it's 3D printable and useful for Blood Bowl, we're going to be checking it out. Now, today is Halloween, so it seems only appropriate that we have a look at one of Blood Bowl's most scary and horrifying teams. Horrifying in theme, horrifyingly good in quality. It is Brutefun's Necromantic team. So Brutefun is a friend of the show, is an awesome 3D sculptor and just a generally great guy, and makes some really cool Blood Bowl teams. So the Necromancer's Horrors Fantasy Football team has been out for about a month now. You can support Brutefun on Patreon, or you can just go like this to my mini factory and see the team. Now this team is $34 and you get absolutely everything you are ever going to need for Necromantic. So as we can see from the picture here, you've got stars, you've got positionals, we've got Frankenstein, you've got Wilhelm Chaney, you've got a pair of werewolves, you've got a pair of golems, you've got a pair of ghouls, you've got a pair of wraiths, not wights, and you've got a myriad of zombies for Blood Bowl, which is cool. You've got an orc zombie, you've got a dwarf zombie. It's a really cool combo, and that's not all. There's also a couple of star players here. You've got Bryce Campbell, one of the missing ones from Games Workshop, which is a Ghost Rider with a chainsaw, and you've got a star player, Banshee, that you're never going to use, but it is a very cool sculpt. Now, the great thing about Brutefun is that he actually separates his pictures so that we can see it, unlike just putting one team shot. Grumble, grumble. Anyway, zombie lineman, you've got a Skaven zombie, which I didn't realise. I've missed that. That's so... I have mixed feelings about this. Anyway, you've got zombies, you've got an elf zombie, you've got a Skaven zombie, you've got an orc zombie, you've got a zombie with a ball in his head, you've got the dwarf zombie there as well. It's a really cool collection of undead players. Then you've got two brilliantly posed werewolves. Now, I don't think this picture does them justice. They are dynamic, they are sized well, and they've got a ton of detail. Printing these models up, cleaning them out, I was just immediately struck by the fact that, oh man, they are going to contrast paint up beautifully, and I need that in my life, because you know what it's like. You go into a Blood Bowl tournament, you need a team, you're thinking, I need a team real quick, I'll print one, no problem at all, and then you got to paint it. The amount of detail and really well done sculpting on these models. Oh, just look at them. You've got all that necro horror vibe. You've got the flesh golems that are pieced together. You've got the werewolves with all of the undead spiky bits that legitimately could be straight out of the Vampire Counts book from Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th edition. It just makes me so happy. They're not chaos. They're graveyard gates. And you can tell. And even like the armor plating here is the same shape as coffins, the coffin lids as the van braces. It just works brilliantly. Then you got some ghouls. Now ghouls can go very wrong. They are probably the second, I think hobgoblins are the kind of positional that can go wrong the most easily, and I think ghouls tend to go wrong the most. These guys are brilliant. They actually kind of look gribbly and creepy while being very sporty, and it works brilliantly. And you've got the wraiths. Now, these wraiths are brilliantly done. They look like the spirit hosts from Age of Sigmar, which are a very cool model set. And you've got all the elements of that. You've got the screaming skull faces. There's actually a non-skull face as an option as well, which is one of the great things about Brutefun. You'll have at least two positionals. No, let me rephrase that. You'll have at least two poses for each positional, and you'll have alt sculpts within that. So the werewolves, there's three werewolves. There's two poses. One of the werewolves has got a hat. One of them doesn't have a hat, which is a really cool thing. And with these ghosts, one of them's got a human face, and one of them's got a skull face. They work brilliantly. Oh my god, and then you've got star players. This is always catches me out with this. So you get the full team, and then you go and just get three excellent star player sculpts. And I mean really, really cool star player sculpts. This Frank is just probably the best Frank out there, which is amazing. Chaney is just an awesome werewolf model. And I love the Bryce Campbell model. I'm surprised we don't see him more in Blood Bowl. I think because there's no model from Games Workshop, he kind of goes under the radar. Well, time for him to be back on the radar, because you've got a flaming chainsaw skeleton, and it's really cool. You've got all the tokens. So for $34 you get an entire team with multiple poses of positionals, with alternate sculpts, and all the star players that fit in the Sylvanian Spotlight release. Brutefun's just gone, nice job, Games Workshop. Here's everything you need for just over $34. Let's have a look at the STLs. Okay, so we're going to start out with the werewolf STLs here. Now, like I said, there's 2 different poses, but you've got the alternate hats. All of these models are pre-supported and pre-supported by printed players. Printed players are all about printing players for Blood Bowl, so you can rely on their supports. It's been really good to see that relationship brew up, and now you kind of know that if you've got a Brutefun model that's pre-supported by printed players, you're going to be able to print those players. And the pre-supports are really good. So looking at the werewolves, you can see all the detail of the sculpts that we just kind of looked at. You've got all the fur, all the dents as well, all the scratches. There's that full experience here. These are top quality sculpts. There is nothing here that you are missing from the Games Workshop experience, except having it come in 75 pieces. In fact, if you want to trip down memory lane, go and have a look at our Necromantic unboxing and just try and build one of those ghouls that comes in 4 different leg pieces. Or you print a Brutefun team and it's basically 1 piece per model and you're good to go. And look at this, you've got both those werewolves. One of them does have a helmet as well, which is a really cool alt sculpt. And the best thing about 3D printing is you can sculpt them, you can scale them up, you can mirror them. So if you want 2 of the running positionals, you can have them and they look slightly different. It works brilliantly. Anyway, that's the werewolves. You've got the ghouls, so you've got 3 different ghoul sculpts. One of them's mirrored with a helmet and no helmet there. No, not mirrored. It can be mirrored quite easily is what I kind of meant. And then you've got this really cool gribbly looking dude who's holding the helmet and just looks very ghoul-like. He's in a crouched position. Now, when it comes to some of these players for the Necromantic team here, you've got plates on their feet. Now, first of all, I was well chuffed that they all printed perfectly. I was expecting that to be a kind of like, this is going to be a nuisance. When I clean up the models, that's going to flake off or whatever. Perfect. So great job from Printed Sports. And a really cool thing to sculpt for Brutefun as well. So that when you've got the models and you need to glue them to the bases, you've got more than a teeny tiny contact point. And what I can say is if you need to cut them off, because you want your guys on textured bases, they do clip off really easily. So they're actually the perfect thickness. Weird little thing to rave about, but if you're like me and you've printed a load of stuff, or quite frankly just glued any kind of model to a base, Amazon thrower, it can be aggravating. So the fact they've got those extra flat bits on there to support the cast, the sculpt, really, really, really good. Great detail on the face, and again, more scratches, more detail on the armor, and it's just such a delight to see these players. Okay, now, I love the werewolves, but I think the golems here are my favorite models for this set. When it comes to flesh golems, you can do so much cool stuff. You can kind of go a couple of different angles. You can go the full-on Frankenstein route, where you can lean into the fact that they are, in fact, flesh golems made of multiple different things. And you can see that the guy on the left there has got a big old troll hand welded to him. You've got the kind of weird metal bars on their faces. Every one of the skulls has got a ton of stitches. The bodies are bloated and disgusting. There's an absolute ton of detail, and he's done a beautiful job of tying it together with that coffin motif as well. It's just gribbly skin, bloated undead things tied together with coffin armor pieces and mausoleum gateposts. It's awesome. Really big fan of these. You've even got little tombstones chained to their backs. So love the flesh golems. The problem with a team like this is it makes you think, wow, wouldn't Necromantic be cool if actually you could take 4 flesh golems instead and have alternate builds? And that's the beautiful thing about Brutefun's miniatures. All of his teams make you want to be able to use more than what you can use of those positionals. And then you've got the wraiths. So Games Workshop went the bedsheet route, which was really cool, really clever. But if you want something more spectral, something more terrifying for your Necromantic team, then I think you'll agree it's been put bang on here. And you've got all that ghost vibe, which is perfect, still with the player armor. In fact, if you have a look at the design of these models, it fits in very nicely with the artwork for Gretchen, where it's just like a ghostly apparition in Blood Bowl uniform. Let me introduce you to that on the Blood Bowl pitch here. And they've got some very creepy undead faces. Like, Tiff and I have been binge watching some horror movies and stuff at the moment, and this is kind of like the face that comes at you when you close your eyes. it works beautifully. Now, all of that spectral smoke, I'm going to call it, works really well, but there's a really nice contact point for both of these models, which, again, I cannot stress how useful that is, having built some other models from other companies, no names, but actually having a big old area there for you to be able to glue to a base is fantastically useful. Models are great, very dynamic, very spooky. Okay, we've not used all of the zombie models. How many is there? There's 8 different sculpts in the pack I've got. Now, I downloaded this as he was producing it, so there may be another couple added, knowing Brutefun and the way he produces models. But we got a good little selection here. Now, there are unsupported versions available as well. I just didn't want to download the whole pack twice. And you can see there's a cool ton of details. Now, these are zombies, so you can see that they've ramped up the damage on the armor for all of these positionals. This is wicked as well. That whole head like snapping pose is just horrible. You've got great facial detail here, or at least what's left of the face. Half the jaw's gone. Oh, that is horrible. That is actually horrible. That's amazing. I'm so pleased with that. That's really, really, really cool. And I want to see this neck snap, because it is just, yeah, that guy's dead. Zombie. And the Orc Zombie, I'm a big fan of this ever since 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle Cursed Company came out, where you had these skeleton high elves and skeleton dwarves and stuff. Well, now we got a zombie Skaven, which, you know, part of me is sad, but then I kind of assume it's just a lineman that got kicked and then died immediately, because I've had maybe 7, 8 of those this year. And then you've got the very cool Orc there. Brutefun's not a yeah, Brutefun's not bad at sculpting orcs, and the fact this guy's got this undead twist on him, he's kind of almost got vampire nose. It works really, really, really well. Now, there's a few other zombies in there as well. There's a dwarf one and there's a bunch of human ones. I just grabbed these to show off because I love all of these models. Okay, now when it comes to the star players, there's a bunch of different varieties as well, but I've just grabbed the first one of each. Oh, I've forgotten to grab the Banshee star player, but it's a cool enough figure. Bryce the Slice is this flaming ghostly skeleton with a chainsaw, and it's a really cool sculpt, and I have to give awesome props, I guess, to printed players for supporting that so well, because Brutefun does not skimp on some wicked pieces of animation and sculpting. The flames are brilliant, and this guy's got extra like vampire wings and fluted armor that just works brilliantly well, and to be able to support that and have it come out without difficulty, really, really, really good. So excellent combo there. And then you've got what has to be one of the best werewolf models of all time. So this is the Wilhelm Cheney model. All of the great texture, all of the great pieces of armor that have been put together for this team, and he's just going to be a star player model for you, whether you are going for just using him as a werewolf or as Wilhelm Cheney. Just awesome model. And then you've got something that I think is very, very, very cool. So there's a bunch of different options for Frank. I think I might have printed the small head version. He's got a big head version and a small head version. Maybe this is the big head version. I'm not sure. I think it's the big head version. And then you've got a version that's got lightning on the backpack there as well, which has been done really well. So there's a ton of elements of this team where you've got the spectral, ghostly smoke and stuff like that. This is cool. He's gone so far as to add lightning to this star player as well. And I just love that you've got a bunch of different ones to choose, and they all come pre-supported. Now, there's unsupported versions as well, so you can take them, you can scale them up. You might need to do that for some of these models. You can scale them down, you can flip them, whatever, and you've got pre-supported versions ready to go, or you've got unsupported versions so you can tailor to your liking. Where there's a ton of different star player variants to choose from, which is completely unnecessary and is just completely brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the prints. These have been printed on my Saturn II, I think. I did a big old tray of printy goodness. I think I printed one of every model. Now, I think with the exception of one model that I've got a scaled up version, I've just used the straight pre-supported versions. Now, when it comes to scaling up models, as you know by now, I like to scale mine up a little bit to get to see the detail well. They paint up easier, but I have been known to overdo it a little bit, so we will bear that in mind. Now, this is one of the Frank models. This is the large head model with no lightning, and I love that there's that much to choose from. And I've printed them out on Asgard Rising bases because I had a bunch of them lying around and I've run out of Games Workshop ones, so just a nice little bit of texture so I can print the whole team out together. And we'll see what we can do to get the best zoom and focus that we can on this model, because it's important that we try and show off all of the excellent detail. So, like I said, printed on the Saturn II with standard settings, and I've just loved doing this. The pre-supports came off beautifully. Now, I've cleaned these up, but probably not quite as well as I should have done. Again, that's pretty standard for me by now, but I didn't need to. There was minimal work to be done to get these models ready to be used, which is just an absolute flipping delight. Anyway, we can see we've got Frank here, and he is a big old boy. He's got all the bloated bits you expect from a flesh golem, and he's got that weird electrical generator on the back there. I don't know why. He just does as a character, and it's played out nicely, and Brutefun's absolutely bang on with the sculpt. Now, it is time for the size comparisons, and here we go. Let's use the Necro Golem from the team. So this is Brutefun's Frank versus a very, very heavily agraxed Flesh Golem from the base box set. He is a big boy, as you can see. There's a ton of size difference. This guy is a pure star player. Now, the Games Workshop Frankenstein model is definitely not strength 5 sized. Definitely kind of strength 4. This guy here, when you stand him up next to the Games Workshop one, I put him on a 40mm base because he's a big old lad. Size-wise, you get a ton of mass here at 100% scale for Frank. Okay, next up we've got, in fact, both of the Flesh Golem models, again printed at 100% scale. And I know I've not cleaned up all the supports as well as I should have done, but the models have come out really, really nice. And again, they're printed on Asgard Rising bases. These are 32mm sized. And I'm doing my best to get the detail here. Grey resin doesn't always necessarily show up as well as you'd like it to, but they've come out really, really nicely. And in fact, on this guy here, you can see all of the kind of gribbly flesh bits. It just works so nicely. You've got all the detail there. You've got all the kind of standard fleshed bits. You've got the fabric bits. You've got the wood grain there on the model, which just comes together beautifully. Now, when comparing this to the Games Workshop one, let's get rid of you, my big-handed friend. Actually, the size of 100% is bang on the money. I actually printed a version of this model that's a bit larger, but 100% will put you equal in size, I think, is fair to say, with the Games Workshop one. Now, I also printed one at 110% because that's how I roll on here. This is the only model I printed at a larger scale, just because I was looking at the 3D model and I was like, actually, this is the one I would like to scale up. And if you boost it up just 10%, the mass is a lot bigger than the Games Workshop one on that level, and I found that was just what I wanted. So for your Flesh Golems, I think 110% is good, but otherwise 100% is fine. They'll line up to the Games Workshop ones, but these are beautiful sculpts. I don't know why you wouldn't want them a little bit more glorious. Okay, next up we've got the pair of werewolves, and you can see I've not cleaned this up very well at all. There's still supports in there. Now, when we had a look at the pre-supported versions, you could see that you've got all the detail there in the mouth. So you've got the tongue, you've got the teeth, you've got the grill on the face, all supported, and I wasn't particularly careful when taking the supports off these models, and I've had absolutely no damage at all, which is pretty awesome. I'm really pleased with that. Now, size-wise, again, I did these guys at 100% scale. I love this one. The kind of the dog running pose works really, really, really well. You can see, again, I've got some more supports in there. Ooh, that I probably should have cleaned up before I cured them, but that is my fault. Nothing to do with these models, but I love the posing. The posing is so good. All the detail on the model there you can pick out, which is really nice. Now, size-wise, let's grab a Games Workshop dude. Get rid of that. And we'll take the running pose. Actually, the Brutefun ones are a little bit larger than the Games Workshop ones. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Like, the werewolves in the Necro team are strength 3. They're live. That's how they roll. But actually, the Brutefun ones look bigger. They look a bit scarier. And it works really nicely. So, 100% scale, pre-supported, straight out the bat, they are perfect for the pitch. Okay, we've got a pair of the ghouls now, and again, fully pre-supported ones at 100% scale. Now, this is the first of the models I think we've looked at where we've had that flat bit of the foot there that I had to trim away around the toes. Now, if you're using flat bases, it's perfect. You just kind of use your texture paint or your sand and you kind of glue over it and with a bit of PVA, and it works beautifully. For textured bases like this, you have to clip it away, which was not very difficult at all. And actually, if I was going to be painting these up to be a proper team, I would glue around the feet, add some sand to kind of blend it into the base. But I mean, you don't have to do that, not by a long shot, not for most of this. I love these positions. These ghouls are really well done. You've got a nice loping kind of phase, and this creepy crouching one is just excellently done. He's just caught that weird gribbly ghoulness about these models really nicely. And scale wise, I didn't want to grab a Games Workshop ghoul because they're all probably broken because they're all in 85 pieces. So I grabbed a friendly neighborhood jaunty zombie, I guess. And size wise, the ghoul from Brutefun at 100% is a little bit bigger, but actually I think works really, really well. And onwards to the ghosts. So we've got the two wraiths here. I printed out both of the models. I also printed out the star player wraith, but I think these are both the line wraiths. And it doesn't massively matter when it comes to running wraiths, because the likelihood of you running Gretchen, not very high. But again, everything we saw when we're looking at the STLs is bang on. The creepy detail of the face, the cool ghostly smoke effect works really, really well. And the fact you've got that flat mounting point is brilliant. Now, like I said, I've used standard resin, standard techniques for these, and I'm so pleased to tell you that this is very durable on the center there. Brutefun's made sure that that single point in the middle is tough, and I think, I don't want to push my luck, but that is pretty good actually. I'm really impressed that he's actually survived without any damage. So that's cool. Like that guy, like this guy too. Again, just more ghostly smoke. I love the face. I love the, maybe this is the star player one. No, it's got the ball. I don't know. Anyway, love these. Scale wise, the ghosts are fine. I think I would want to scale them up to 110% if I was going to be using them as my primary team. But for the sake of this, if you're good to go with just 100%, then I wouldn't worry too much about it. The detail's great. I just like my blitzers to be extra kind of potent, or they kind of I want them to stand out. But 100% scale, they are very much in line with Games Workshop. The last few models we want to have a look at. I did print out Bryce Campbell, Bryce the Slice, and actually I haven't quite got the camera as settled in as I would like, because it's a very cool model with a ton of detail, and sadly, unless you get the focus exactly right, you can't really show off all of the detail when it's just grey resin. But you can kind of see that the detail's translated really well there. I need to get the darker grey resin, clearly. Now, I love this team. I'm really impressed with the team. It's printed up beautifully, and this is another model that I haven't cleaned up all the supports, but all of these flames came out perfectly. All of these weird ghostly flames, skeleton features, thin arms, beautiful. So Bryce, big thumbs up there if you're looking for a Bryce Campbell model. Again, from a size wise, I would probably scale him up because he's a star player, but he's good to go at 100%. If you line him up with a zombie, I think you're fine. And then we've got 3 linemen, so just the 3 linemen, because apparently I've lost. What did I do with that guy? Well, that is sad. Somewhere between my outside and inside, I have lost the dwarf guy. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the zombies. So this is, I think, one of the human zombies there, and it's cool. These zombies are a little bit on the slight side, which is fine. I love the rolling neck on it. It's just absolutely gruesome. Detail's lovely. Pre-support's lovely. Sizing on the zombies is the only bit for me that I would probably want to zoom up a bit. Games Workshop ones are kind of chunky. It's kind of how Games Workshop rolls. The Brutefun zombies are a little bit on the slight side. They're not an issue though. They're a bit taller. They're a bit thinner. You know, you might want to scale them up. The dwarf definitely needs a bit of scaling up, so I'm a bit gutted that I've managed to lose him. But the standard human zombies are probably okay. I just like them to have a little bit more heft, and that is because they're resin printed. So, I mean, the detail is brilliant, and the way they've been sculpted and put together, worked really nicely, but the legs are quite thin and they make me a little bit nervous. So again, I might want to upscale them ever so slightly, but you definitely don't need to. And then you've got the orc, which is just a brilliant model. An undead orc is going to fit in your team so lovely, and especially if you're playing in a league, you're going to need some kind of team specific undead pieces, and I've been really impressed with this. Again, I think I did print a separate orc that was upscaled a bit because I wanted him to look like a undead black orc, but you don't need to. It's really well done. And there you have it, a spooky team for a spooky day. Brutefun has just done an awesome job here. This is just one of my favorite necromantic teams. I like the Games Workshop necromantic team. The ghosts are funny, it works nicely. The ghouls are horrible to build. The werewolves are pretty cool. And then you see Brutefun's version, where the star player is magnificent. All of the werewolves are great. The ghouls are brilliant too. All of the zombies have character, especially this dwarf guy who does need to be scaled up a bit. I just love this. The pictures you see here don't do it justice, and I haven't quite got the camera reset after the tournament, so it was a little bit blurry, and I do apologize for that. I'm going to blame ghosts because it's Halloween, but the team's fantastic. And there is one other thing I want to show you before we disappear, because this cannot be understated and I don't want you to miss out. You can support Brutefun on Patreon, or you can pick up the models that you need individually. So if you want to pick up Bryce, he's $3.50. If you want to pick up a ridiculous amount of choices for your big Frankenstein, he's $3.50. So if you don't want to fork out for the entire team in one go because you've got a team you're happy with, then actually just have a look and pick up a few of the models that you may want to add. You might want alternative werewolves. You might want to pick up some werewolves to add to your Norse team. Undead players in specifics. It's so good to have a zombie dwarf, you know, or a Skaven dude. It just works really well. So the team is great value at $34 for the entire team, all the positionals and all the star players, but it comes in smaller pints. So if you want just a couple of bits to add to your team, then go and check out. The link is in below. Please support Brutefun if you can, because the dude is doing awesome work for Blood Bowl, and I really truly think we are in a golden age of Blood Bowl teams. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of this team below, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.